I'm Johnnery Clarkson, and today we're going to be reviewing the next best racing game in the world. Now, I'm going to be taking a break from reviewing Toys to Life games to review another Toys to Life game. Oh, bugger!
Toybox Turbos is Codemasters' solution to the appetite of Micro Machines fans the world over. Except for the fact Codemasters owns the rights to Micro Machines. I guess they wanted to play the revival of the genre safely before tarnishing the brand again with a multiplayer-only sequel 11 years later. I'm not sure why I, of all people, am booing Codemasters. I'm not a fan of Micro Machines, and my nostalgia for them is limited to previews on PlayStation demo discs.
When I wasn't playing Tombi at your mum's house.
Clarksonisms aside, Toybox Turbos makes it clear why the toy and video game brand was so popular and created a fandom that will rip me a new arsehole if I criticise, say for example, the camera or controls. Being a top-down racer, the perspective took some getting used to. There's times where you go too fast for the camera, so you don't go too fast until it catches up, unless you want to catch up with your old friend, the bottomless pit. If you're feeling particularly masochistic, you have two other camera options to make your life hell for the retro feel. I am exaggerating, but it's a preference I don't subscribe to.
Because I'm not mental.
The controls don't seem so bad at first, the turning is slippery, but not unbearable. And then it becomes unbearable. Each cup has its own unique vehicles, naturally getting faster and sometimes lighter, but the handling gets progressively worse regardless of the stat. My original theory was that the game tries to automatically power slide for you, but that doesn't make it okay. I'm constantly spinning out of control over the most sensitive movements of the joystick or tap of the scenery. And the vehicle's weight makes no difference. The AI will be damned if it budges out of the way of a tank.
And so I came up with another theory.
This is a Codemasters game. They published Overlord Fellowship of Evil, so I don't expect much sense from this game either.
Yes, there's prizes in store and much, much more when you play Supermarket Sweep!
Fine, that's enough of that.
Okay.
And yes, I do believe that the publishers Mia mentioned can sour an otherwise decent game. These are the largest criticisms I have with the game, but even at that I'm sure the controls being the way they are is more a feature than a bug for Double M fans. Toybox Turbo's content is made accessible in two ways, by requiring you to beat a boss so you can unlock the next cup, and the low requirements of stars to see the boss. Completing levels in a certain time, place on the podium, and score can get you anywhere between 1 and 3 stars. These get harder to obtain in future cups, but many of them can be earned through track knowledge and using better suited vehicles. Unlike my other favourite tabletop racing game, there's no single vehicle that suits all race types.
It makes my speed freak wantonness look like freakish incompetence.
And the race variety makes gaining stars less of a chore even if you're bored with such ways of moving forward. Classic mode is your typical combat race. Time trials and countdowns are self-explanatory, but modes such as Escape or Overtake are where the unique selling points of Toybox Turbo shine through. In Escape mode, players have to navigate the track to avoid the underwhelmingly threatening transparent blue goo. This unimpressive killer of cars chases you until you're in it for long enough, and you've got to gain your stars after a certain distance. It creates an intense atmosphere that is more about endurance and handling rather than raw speed. It's too bad that the volcanic eruption or robot or army men that some of the levels are named after don't try stomping you like a boss in Diddy Kong Racing. I really must review that at some point. Overtake mode simply requires you to over and undertake other slow-moving vehicles. This isn't particularly hard, but the weight of other vehicles and surfaces you can slide on bump up the difficulty somewhat moderately. And when you've got enough stars from doing that, you can face the boss, the number required sometimes so low that you don't need to do any races of that cup. And this is where my love of the game vanishes. I hate boss races in Toybox Turbos because they use everything in their power to superheat your piss with boiling rage. Elimination mode, as it's called, has you and your opponent start with 4 lives, and you gain 1 when your opponent loses 1, and vice versa. Lives are lost by destroying enemies with a hammer or machine gun, slowing them down with mines, or being an idiot and driving off the edge. You can also lose lives by being outraced by your opponent, but if you both know the map and don't use weapons, you'll soon lose lives out of sheer boredom. Even the game knows it's taking the casket by stopping the other person with the most lives from losing them if they die, choosing only to award the survivor after a while. There was one time when the AI was committing suicide. Oh, sod this! How much more proof do you need that this sucks?
Help! Someone's anus has broken loose!
Elimination mode goes on for far too long. Even if you don't lose any lives, you still have to beat the boss 4 times before you unlock their car. It doesn't help when most of the items will be more of a detriment to you than your rival Toybox Tosspot. In the event that you win this dreary battle, you can use the boss vehicle in that cup, which is absolutely pointless if you've got 3 stars in all the races there. They don't carry over to the next cup, so they're pretty much reduced to coin farming vehicles, sometimes bad ones at that. Indeed, you need coins to purchase new vehicles, with some cups expecting you to buy your first vehicle there, so don't get used to the freebies early on. I can't really complain, at least I didn't pay £15 for the sodding things like a Skylander Superchargers figure. Coins are gained through getting high scores or low scores, the game doesn't care, and every coin on the track has a value of 10. You don't have to work too hard to buy your next vehicle, but you'll often find yourself doing missions you don't enjoy just to get a single vehicle for the latest car. And if you want to get the collector's achievements, I hope you feel good about showing off how much time and little effort you put into it. Yes, I am bitter because I couldn't be arsed.
Welcome to my world!
Speaking of time, Toybox Turbos clocks in at around 4 hours of playtime. I couldn't complete the game because on the final cup I kept getting the blue screen of death and the red face of anger. Graphics and soundtrack. Toybox Turbos requires your monitor to be set to 720p and it shows. Not that I play my other games at a higher resolution anyway. The textures are okay, but there's some really grubby surfaces that make it look like a mobile port. It was a surprise when I realised that this is only on PS3, Xbox 360 and PC as well, and it doesn't have the excuse of having a lot in the background to render, as the set dressing off the track is even blurrier. In the game's defense, and I've said this 3 reviews in a row now, so I really need to expand my vocabulary, it uses colour beautifully, to which I admit is the reason why I've never been able to give up on the idea of reviewing this. It's just so bloody nice, and does far more for me than Tabletop Racing World Tour. As for the sound design, it looks how it sounds, like Scooby-Doo and Looney Tunes Cartoon Universe Adventure. No, really, the soundtrack can easily be mistaken for that Warner Brothers tripe.
And I'm not talking about Arkham Knight.
Don't confuse this as marks against the game though, it has some really catchy tunes. When the OST is half and half adequate and fist fantastic, it's one I recommend you take the time to listen to. It's hectic, it's jumpy, and it gets you raring to race in all the right ways. Final thoughts. Unless people talk to me about it in the comments section on YouTube, or talk to me about it on social media, in which case it won't be my final thoughts. But assuming that no one's going to do that, these are my final thoughts. Toybox Turbos is a cheap, charming and cheerful racer that forgoes the edge of micro machines, cutting the combat corners to instead deliver a more traditional karting game experience. The controls are far too oily for my liking and may be disappointing for others used to a tighter scheme. And though it may be only approximately 4 hours long, there's some fun to be had in sinking a lot more time to eke out those extra stars and coins for vehicles. If you want bright, bombastic, classic toys and track design, Toybox Turbos is for you. Or if you like the themes but fancy more fighting, Tabletop Racing World Tour is another game I'd refer you to.
And until the next time, I'm Johnnery Clarkson, your #1 source for #2 games. And you've been watching Top something, I haven't really thought of a name yet. Terrara Bit. I don't know the rest of the song, so I better do the outro. That's why I don't do the camera bits anymore, because they're all shit.